Hi everybody, welcome back to Sumi Learns. If you're new here, my name is Sumi, and in case you're not on TikTok, there's this trend that I've been seeing that I thought was kind of cool. You know how there's Spotify Wrapped? I've seen people do Wrapped for other things. For example, I saw someone do med school Wrapped, and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I should do it for PhD. So I'm doing a Wrapped for my first semester of PhD. So I have a PowerPoint presentation that I worked very hard on. I didn't really work that hard. But yes, I have a PowerPoint presentation with a couple of questions. It probably isn't that long, that just like wrap up my semester, that ask me different questions. So without further ado, here is my presentation. So I will jump into my first question, which is, how many experiments did not work? So this is something I heard a lot from a lot of people. They're like, science doesn't always work, like you're going to have failed experiments. It's one of the hardest parts of doing a PhD is how many things don't work. And I definitely experienced that. In my case, at least 65% of my experiments did not work. And I tried to like estimate because I actually can't remember how many, but I'd say more experiments failed than worked, which was definitely kind of hard. And I spent the majority of my time since doing my PhD just on troubleshooting my experiments, trying to figure out why they didn't work. I actually did a vlog a while ago where I showed like my flow cytometry and how all my cells were dead. That I spent like weeks just trying to figure out for this one experiment why my cells kept dying. So yes, it is in fact true that many many experiments do not work. So the second question is, how many research papers did I read? Okay, this was something that took me so far by surprise, because even though I know I'm going into scientific research, I don't like reading research papers. I think they're quite boring. I feel like the writing is just unnecessarily like full of jargon. I just think scientists can do better when they write research papers. So I don't like reading research papers, but honestly, I had to read a lot this semester. So my total number was at least 20, which to me feels like a lot. Maybe that's not a lot to a couple of people, but honestly, I was like, oh gosh, this is a lot of research papers that I'm reading. Some of them I read for classes because I had a class that was like a journal club style paper. And then the next question is, what was my favorite class this year? So in case you don't know, at least in my program, I still have to take classes. This, my first like 1 year, sometimes 2 years, depending on the school that you're in, you have to take classes related to like what you're going to major in, but also classes about like research. So I had to take, technically I took 5 courses, that's what's on my transcript, but 2 of them were just seminars that I had to attend every week, and then 3 were actually classes where I had like assignments and like readings and things like that. And my answer for my favorite class this year is none of the above. Honestly, I had I just had issues with many of my classes. I appreciate the professors a lot, but I just don't think the structure of the classes were ideal. And I really care about education. It's something that I'm really passionate about. So for me, it was like, I just think there were better ways to teach the like knowledge that was being taught. But in terms of hardest class of the year, I would say this one absolutely goes to my essential immunology class. And I love immunology, which is what I'm doing research in. And I would say it wasn't that the class was hard because the content was hard. It was hard only because there was so much content. Like the amount of things that I had to memorize, and I'm not used to having to memorize things. My undergrad university, there was a huge emphasis on really not memorizing, on really having like learning the knowledge and applying the knowledge. So then me coming to this school where like there was just so much to memorize, I was like, oh my gosh. I still did really well in the class, and like I'm happy I took the class, but I was like, oh my goodness, this is a lot of information. And the next question is, how many times did I cry? Oh yeah, this is so this year was honestly mostly a really good, or I should say this semester was mostly a really good semester. But related to my PhD, I did cry 2 times. And this was all related to one professor who I worked for, like this advisor who was just, it was not a good experience. So yeah, I'm glad I'm out of that. But yes, there were rough times in the semester, but it was mostly good. And then the next question is, oh, I'm reading this sideways. I don't even know what it says. Oh yes, how many hours did I spend on average in the lab daily? So honestly, this was something I was like, worried about when I was coming into my PhD, because I really love having a life outside of science. I enjoy science, but for me, it's not the end all be all, which I know there are some professors who like want you to live and breathe in the lab, which I have now experienced one of those professors, and I know that's not for me. So I was really worried. I was like, oh gosh, is this going to have to be me during my PhD? But I'm happy to announce that on average, I honestly spent around like 6 hours in the lab. And I feel like I was still a really productive like scientist. I got experiments done, I did things, but at the same time, like I did things that I enjoyed. I had hobbies, more of that at the end. But yeah, overall, honestly, I didn't have to spend too much time. To be fair, I am in my first year, and of course I had classes, so maybe next year, I mean, check back and it could be a much higher number. And the next question is, how many times did I consider quitting my PhD? This is so funny because I don't know how true this is, but the rate I always hear is that people say about 50% of PhD students drop out of their PhD, something around there. So I know it's quite common for people to like leave the PhD program, but personally for me, I did not ever consider quitting my PhD. Even when I had a really rough time with that first professor, it was still like I still really enjoy science. I love experimenting. I love being able to do research. It's such an honor to be able to like study the human body, how it works. It's so mind-blowing. So I don't know. Honestly, I didn't consider it. But how many times did I ask myself, oh, why am I doing this again? Every day. Every day I did ask myself that, because especially when I didn't want to get out of bed and I'm like, why did I choose to do this? But overall, I really liked my PhD. And the next question is, huh? Oh, I couldn't read it. What fun things did I do this semester? This was something that I'm so glad that this semester honestly ended up being such a fun semester. So starting off strong. Oh, so many pictures here. So I'll move closer. So if you can see right here, we have Simone Biles. This was my gymnastics semester. I watched so much gymnastics. I became even like so much more passionate about gymnastics. The World Championships was going on for gymnastics and the Pan American Games, and I was glued to my laptop for all of it, screaming, so excited. So yes, it was a fun gymnastics semester. I also binge watched 2 shows. I watched Monk and The Mentalist for the like 7th time in a row. Love those shows. Those are my all-time favorite shows. So that was really awesome. I also celebrated my birthday this semester, so that was also really nice. And I made great friends. Who are just awesome people. I love the friends that I've made. And I met a llama whose name is Breakfast. So honestly, full circle. All around very great semester. And then my overall rating for this semester was an 8 out of 10, which I think is really solid. This was such a fun semester. I love Ithaca as a city. Yeah, I love, honestly, the experience that I've had. So I'm looking forward to next semester. Well, that is it. Thank you guys for watching my PhD wrapped. I'm hoping that this is something I continue to do just to keep up with how I'm liking things. I'm hoping this is something I'll do after every semester. Maybe it'll become more like a yearly thing. We'll see, depending on how I feel. But yes, see ya.